Fall is a season of gathering that brings us together with warmth and color. So whether it's a birthday, anniversary, or a special event, celebrate your friends and family with a gorgeous bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers makes it easy to find your reason and brighten someone's day with exclusive offers and great values on bouquets and arrangements. To order today, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
Heart-stopping, house-rocking, booty-shaking, delusional, fan-taking, MuggleCast 32 for March 26, 2006. See why GoDaddy.com is the #1 domain registrar worldwide. Now, with your domain name registration, you'll get hosting, a free blog, complete email, and much more. Plus, as a MuggleCast listener, enter code RON, that's RON, when you check out, and get your .com domain name for just $6.95 a year. Get your piece of the internet today at GoDaddy.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to MuggleCast episode 32, coming to you live from Andrews, Kansas. I'm Ben Shane.
Same as Andrew.
I'm Kevin Steck.
I'm Jamie Lawrence.
I'm Laura Thompson.
I'm Eric Skull.
And I'm Micah Tannenbaum. We got a full house here this week, people. We have Aaron, Eric, Andrew, Kevin, Jamie, Laura. Jeez.
Yeah, this is great. I love
this. Can somebody paste the schedule?
Why do you keep asking?
Give me the schedule. I want the schedule.
Okay, Jamie. I gave you the schedule 30 minutes ago.
Go into the Rightly. Dude, go into the Rightly and get the schedule.
Hey, Ben. I forgot to do the news this week. What are we going to do about that?
Micah, can you stop asking
Andrew, what are we going to do about him?
I don't know.
Hey,
Laura.
Don't be so mean to Micah. Micah is a good person. I am backwards compatible with Windows 3.1.
No,
okay, the jig is up.
Windows XP
the jig is up.
3.1 doesn't exist.
Oh, quiet down, Laura. I used to have
Windows 3.1.
About?
Okay.
Laura, okay, whatever.
Okay,
Stop
okay, guys. Where the jig is up, people. It's not really all. We don't have a full house here. It's just the three amigos, right, Eric?
The three amigos. That's
it's
correct.
me, Ben Shane, Andrew Sims, and Eric Skull. Micah, grace us with your amazing power of voiceover and take away the news.
To celebrate the release of the UK Goblet of Fire DVD, Collector Mania 9 will be attended by several Harry Potter actors. Actors confirmed thus far are Robert Pattinson, Cedric, Matthew Lewis, Neville, and James and Oliver Phelps, Fred and George. Admission is free and the event runs from April 28th to May 1st, with most of the Harry Potter guests appearing on Sunday, April 30th. Lizzo of CBBC Newsround recently visited the set of the fifth Harry Potter movie and interviewed the stars. Among the information that was gathered, we learned that the kissing scene has been postponed for a few weeks due to Dan having the flu. Scenes involving the Room of Requirement and the Forbidden Forest have started filming, including the part where the centaurs rampage after Umbridge. And David Heyman said the film would be released either summer or fall of 2007, and the sixth film, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, will be out late 2008. He also mentioned that a trailer should be revealed by the end of this year. Check out the full video of the interview on MuggleNet.com. More Order of the Phoenix news. Gary Oldman's longtime manager, Doug Urbanski, completed the deal Tuesday morning with Harry Potter producer David Heyman, making it official that the actor will reprise the role of Sirius Black in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Jamie Whalett, the actor who plays Crabbe in the Potter films, has updated his online blog with a few Order of the Phoenix filming updates, so be sure to check those out. J.K. Rowling has painted a ceramic egg and donated it to an auction taking place at Jam House in Queen Street today, which will benefit the Multiple Sclerosis Society, Scotland. A variety of other celebrities have done the same, and at least 150 people are expected to attend, and tickets are priced at £50 each, which includes a champagne reception, a 3-course meal, whiskey tasting, and live entertainment from the Jam House Band. Man, I wish I was going. British afternoon talk show Richard and Judy announced Friday that in Series 2, beginning on June 19th, they will conduct an exclusive interview with Jo Rowling. By that time, we expect her to have a good bit of Book 7 written, so, we hope she'll talk about that. The date of this interview ties in with Jo's planned appearance at the Queen's 80th birthday party at Buckingham Palace. Continuing their site update, Scholastic, the American Harry Potter publisher, has updated once again to include new downloads related to Prisoner of Azkaban. Updates for Goblet of Fire through Half-Blood Prince are expected in the upcoming weeks. Finally, you can read about Snape killing Dumbledore in paperback, as the UK and US editions of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince are set to be released on June 23rd and July 25th, respectively. Both versions can be pre-ordered through Amazon.com. That's all the news for this March 26, 2006 edition of MuggleCast. Back to the trio.
Thanks for that, Micah. Okay, it's time for some announcements. Right, Andrew? Right, Andrew? Right, Andrew?
That's wrong, Ben. No, let's see. What do we have here? Just the usual stuff, guys. Don't forget to buy a MuggleCast t-shirt because, as Eric said last week, something about Tootsie Rolls, they're going to explode if... I can't remember why.
Explode.
Something about exploding Tootsie Pops.
Yes.
I zoomed out after your first two sentences because
Andrew.
usually everything you say after your first two sentences is completely useless.
Except for the last two sentences in which I sum it up.
Oh, okay.
I would also vote for us on Podcast Alley. This is ridiculous, right, Andrew?
Yeah, because usually I don't like to ask because it's like, oh, they already know. I shouldn't have to say anything. But then we're not even in the top 10 list, so it kind of worries me. So don't forget. Once we're in the top 10 list,
Terrible.
I'll stop bugging.
Yeah.
And then one last thing, just a general notice. We usually record these shows on Wednesdays now. So if you want to get in your listener rebuttals or your what ifs or whatever you want, your voicemails too, most especially, make sure that you get those in by Wednesday of each week because we usually record on Wednesdays. Anything after that is usually going to won't make it on the show. We'll read them, but probably won't make it on the show.
Right.
So
For...
listen to the show early in the week, gather your thoughts, and send in your stuff.
That's right.
That is correct. We forgot to explain ourselves why there isn't very many people this week. I think...
I got it. I got the perfect idea.
What is it, Eric?
They
What?
didn't buy their MuggleCast t-shirts. And so now they're running around stark naked trying to find clothes, and they couldn't be with us because of what I said the first time, which was...
You'll lose your clothes. But seriously, the reason that they're not on is because originally we were going to record Wednesday like we usually do, and then now we're recording Saturday night.
Yeah.
I got T-minus 12 hours to 18 hours to finish it, so...
Yeah,
nobody could
poor
make it.
Andrew. Well, see, what happened was on Wednesday we were going to record, and then Jamie had some audio problems where he couldn't get his mic working. And then tonight, he set his alarm for 4 a.m.
just to get
so he could come on the show. And then his mic still wouldn't work, the poor guy. So we're going to get him hooked up with a new one here soon.
And then the reason Kevin isn't here because he's at some community service event, which I thought was really nice. I said, you know what, go do your community service thing.
Hope he doesn't have too wild. Hope he doesn't have too wild of a night.
It's Daffodil Days.
Yeah, I just thought that was nice, and sorry he couldn't be on. And Laura's doing something, and Micah's doing something, so...
It's time for this week's Listener Rebuttal. Right, Andrew? I always say that. Right, Andrew?
Yeah.
So as you guys remember from last week, this is going to be the part of the show where we read listener emails on the air that respond to things that we discussed the episode before. So this first one comes from Jenna, 14 of Connecticut. She writes, very short, to the point, I think the reason that J.K.R. does more narrating in the first book is that the characters aren't developed yet in order to drive the stories themselves. Now, we had been talking about how J.K. Rowling wrote it this way, and basically that sums up what we were saying. I just thought that was
That's nice, yeah.
That is nice.
Well, also, Harry is young that in the way that... Well, first of all, if the story started with Harry, that'd be kind of interesting, but we wouldn't have that backstory. And what little backstory we have is very important. But yeah, I just like... I like hearing about... I think one of the things about Harry Potter is that the most fascinating characters are... I don't want to say the ones that aren't Harry, but there are... all the characters are interesting, and it's good to see stuff about them, too. And we don't really get a lot of that later on.
Right. And then also a little slip-up last week. Well, actually... I don't know. Was this a slip-up, Eric?
Wait, what?
About Ted Tonks being a Muggle born?
No, because I'm... well, read it first.
A lot of people Well, it came from tons of people. I don't have... I'm not quoting any specific person.
Oh, well...
But a lot of people wrote in to say that you guys are wrong, you're idiots, Ted Tonks is actually a Muggle born. But Eric was the one talking about it. I think people just misinterpreted what you were saying.
Yeah, I think... Ted Tonks is Muggle-born. There were a lot of people who cited that. But then somebody also said, somebody we actually quoted, are you sure it isn't in the rightly, said something about...
the milkman thing?
Yeah. Somebody wrote in and to say that I was wrong.
Yeah,
that
Matt...
Ted... Yeah, oh, you have the name?
Matt Smith from Bloomington, Illinois, in fact. He points out that Ted Tonks was actually a milkman. He wasn't sure where he found it, but he read somewhere that Ted Tonks was a milkman, actually.
I do have a response to this. I think that actually it was not Ted Tonks that was milkman. I might be going out on a limb. You can listen or rebuttal me next week, but I think it was Colin Creevy's dad and Dennis Creevy's dad who was mentioned as being a milkman. Now, it doesn't mean that Ted couldn't be a milkman, don't get me wrong. But I think it was Mr. Creevy who specifically said, I think it was book 2, Colin went up and introduced himself to Harry, and then he told him his whole life story about his father being a milkman. So I think that it's Mr. Creevy. So Ted Tonks may be Muggle-born, that's fine. Or he may be a Muggle, who knows? World might never know. Just like Tootsie Rolls, but never mind. Tootsie Pops, and so yeah. I think it was Mr. Creevy as milkman.
Yeah, I think so too. Our next listener rebuttal, Trisha M., 14 from Long Island, New York, writes, Sirius had a wand in Book 5. In the chapter when Harry and the Weasleys went back to Grimmauld Place after the attack on Mr. Weasley, Sirius uses his wand to summon Butterbeer, and he clearly says, Accio Butterbeer. So we know he got a wand back, but was it his wand, and was it someone else's wand?
Andrew, my question is, what's it really matter if he got the Butterbeer?
Because, it proves that he says...
Well, yeah, no, but he got what he wanted to.
We just want to know how he got it back.
Yeah, and,
that was the question last week.
It's sort of like, how did Voldemort get his wand back after he died? It's sort of the same thing, and don't you think the Ministry would have snapped his wand?
You really think so? Just like, what the heck?
If he's given a life sentence in Azkaban, wouldn't they snap his wand?
Yes.
I think to be safe, they would. In fact, Hagrid's wand was snapped, and he only got expelled from Hogwarts. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal with that? Couldn't he enroll in another school or something? Did he need a new wand? He paid like 7 galleons for that thing. You're not going to just... Why snap it when he got out of Hogwarts? Couldn't he,
Right, but I have a feeling that he probably went to Ollivander and got it. No, he couldn't have done that. Because he was on the run.
You mean Ollivanders? I made that mistake.
Ollivanders.
I was like Ollivans. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
But,
actually,
yeah, I sent him one. I sent him a wand.
No, it wasn't. I thought I remember seeing an email about this.
I don't know. Our good friend, actually, guys, while we're on about Sirius, our good friend Haya from the live podcast. She lives in New York.
That I called Shia or something.
Yeah, Shia. But anyway, she wrote into me she wrote me an instant message like 5 minutes before I signed off before we recorded the show, and she said she had a rebuttal about needing a wand to use Animagus to turn yourself into an Animagus, and she said that was probably not true because Sirius once again escaped Azkaban, and he had to turn. He found that he was able to just turn gradually into a dog, and then they wouldn't notice because the Dementors sensed a diminishing feeling, that kind of thing. So I think it's just a movie error. But yeah, that was her rebuttal. She said Sirius pretty much escaped as a dog, and therefore couldn't get his wand or couldn't have his wand or didn't.
But he could have used someone else's. Or
that's true.
Well, I don't think wands are easily accessible.
This last rebuttal is just about how did he end up with a wand in the first place?
Yeah.
After he got out.
And that's really the question.
I don't know. Ask Joe.
One last listener rebuttal. This comes from Jimmy Rose, who sent us a very long email with lots of rebuttals. Some of them are pretty good, like the Tootsie Roll one. But I just wanted to talk about the one where he talks about won't and shan't, because we had discussed this for an alarming amount of time last week.
This is this is one of the most responsed theories.
Yeah, because it's an interesting topic, but I think Jimmy gets it. Jimmy writes, I'm sorry to tell you guys that the revision of shan't in the British version to won't in the American version is the result of American common usage changing the proper forms of the English language. The truth is that one should never say I will or I won't. First person present tense of this verb is shall. This is given more properly as I shall or I shan't. American usage is colored by our need to remove perceived complexity or perceived pretension. Shall somehow sounds a little prissy, so America decided not to use the word properly. In fact, shall has come to take on a slightly different meaning in legal language. In that arena, the word shall carries with it the intent of command. For examples, the claimant shall be compelled to cease and desist. Proper English would rephrase that as, claimant will be compelled. So, basically what he's saying in all of that is us Americans screw up the English language terribly.
Right. Like the point I made last week, it's just idiomatic differences between the two languages. Well, they're the same language, but between idiomatic differences between North American English and between British English. That's all it is. It's the Americans mess things up, I guess.
But it is our fault, right? Not our personally, but the country.
It's better.
As a whole. I think it is better.
We're
That's your typical American greasy McDonald's snob
mentality
teenager.
right there.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
I mean, I'm not walking around saying dog, yo, sup,
Yeah.
kitchen's done, when you're supposed to say finish.
That wraps up this week's Listener Rebuttal. Remember, send in your Listener Rebuttals to MuggleCast@staff.mugglenet.com. You can go to MuggleCast.com and use the feedback form and send them to us. So remember, if there's something that we mess up, or if you have some complaints, just email us. Right, Andrew?
That's right.
Eric, this is your baby right here. Our in-depth discussion. The three amigos here. We're going to have an in-depth discussion about Sorcerer's Stone chapters 4 and 5. So I hope all of you little kiddies out there read chapters 4 and 5.
Did your homework. That was the assignment.
Did your homework. MuggleCast homework.
I love assigning homework. It's my minions.
So, Eric, do you want to start off with a summary or something for us?
Sure. First, I'm going to say a lot of people, we did get a lot of feedback, and thank you to everybody who gave us feedback on the chapter-by-chapter segment. I did respond to a lot of the things in length over on our fan listing forums, mugglecastfan.net/forums. But I'm just going to recap here. So, a lot of people seem to think that it was a bit too much summary last week that we included in it, and that maybe we should bring up things like maybe the top 4 ideas that we think that happened in the chapter, things like that while we're doing this chapter discussion. And I wanted to say...
And to that I say tough.
No, to that actually, you're the one who said, yeah, that's a great idea, until I thought that... Because I think if we only did 4 things, it would be, I took 50 notes for this chapter alone. I mean, it's not going to be...
Eric Stoll, you are hardcore.
I am, but it's not like... I mean, I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'm not going to kill our listeners, I think that we should still follow Harry through the book so that we can point out issues.
Chapter 4, The Keeper of the Keys. Rubeus Hagrid, Keeper of the Keys at Hogwarts.
Okay, no, you're right. Okay, keys and grounds at Hogwarts. All right, let's just skip to the point, okay, because, you anxious fans have said, we've already read the books, we know everything. So, here we go. First thing I noticed, Vernon, Uncle Dursley, was holding a rifle. And, that's the thing that was in the long slip that he bought and nobody knew what it was next to the chips. Guys, why do you think he has a rifle? I mean, it seems like a stupid question, but if you think about it, here's these, magic people he's running all across the country from, and he buys a rifle, and Hagrid just bends it in two. It's completely useless. So why would Vernon even buy a rifle? It seems like a waste of money. He could have bought...
Because
it is a waste of money.
No, it's not. He's using it in his defense.
Well, it's sort of as a symbol. Yeah, I think J.K. Rowling, the reason she wrote it that way was as a symbol to demonstrate just how scared he is and how he's pulling at strings to find some way to protect his family and Harry from the magical people, if you know what I'm saying.
And didn't you say, Eric, it just went to waste?
Yeah, it really did. Like, he could have bought more rations with that money.
Oh, yeah, more bags of chips.
Yeah, he didn't know Hagrid was going to show up and bend the gun in half. Like, not every wizard can bend a gun, so what's the worst they could do? Grab it from him and...
Or they could zap them into oblivion.
Ascendio.
And they could turn the Dursleys into animals. Several times in the books, the Dursleys are all worried about, well, especially after the deadly pig thing, but anyway.
But a gun is a gun.
A gun is
Which is interesting. I don't know how wizards would take a gun. Like, if someone's pointing a gun at you...
They would wrap their hands around the barrel, and they would pull it. That's how they would...
No, they wouldn't. Well,
that's actually...
How would wizards... How do wizards react to a gun?
They would do the Matrix thing with their wand, where they would stop it in midair with their wand. Here's a book movie discrepancy. It's still the first line of the chapter, right? So Hagrid bursts through the door, but in the movie, in the movie it's a little bit more comical. He says, "Oh, sorry about that," and he goes and picks up the door up. That doesn't happen in the book. What happens in the book? Hagrid comes in. It's rather rude because he comes in and they're staring at him, and Hagrid says, "He says you wouldn't happen to have some tea? It hasn't been an easy journey." It's like, he just comes in and he's like, "Got some tea?"
Yeah.
Yeah. It's instead of like, "Sorry about that. I didn't really mean, this clumsy giant." And, also he recognizes Harry right away, which is interesting in the movie why they would make him recognize Dudley first, and say you're particularly.
Well, it was just for comic.
Well, I guess, but
comic purposes.
It's really interesting. So
I really think that was basically Chris Columbus's style. He wanted to make it fun. He wanted, like, you're going to a movie to see entertainment and be entertained. Hagrid's a perfect character to bring out the laughs from people. Because you see him come in, "Oh, sorry about that." Yeah. Look at him.
Whoops.
It was for comic. Chris Columbus is a very family-oriented filmmaker.
He really is. And
when he's filming, I will bet you he's always keeping the family of four going to see the movie in mind.
And Steve Kloves. Here's a big plot. Once Hagrid recognizes Harry, he says right away, out of nowhere, almost as abruptly as he said, "You got any tea?" which was rude. He turns to Harry and he says, "You look like your dad, except you got your mother's eyes. Those mother's eyes." Now, we hear time and time again, and just like where I wanted to track all of Harry's dreams, we should track all the times they tell him he has his mother's eyes. Because everybody, the first thing is, "Oh, you look like your dad, but you have your mother's eyes."
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Like, why is that?
Well,
it's after book 6, and why is...
Right. Well, I think there's something significant about Harry's eyes.
I think there has to be. I mean,
because it has something to do with, it's the one trait that he has of his mother, because besides that, he pretty much looks like his dad. And his mother's love is the only reason that he's alive to begin with.
I think that's interesting, but what do... Yeah.
What about the eyes, though? What significance do they hold?
I don't know. What do eyes do in the books? Have we met any other powerful eyes? I mean, anything...
Well, Lord Voldemort's eyes are oftentimes aren't they? They're red, right?
I don't know. I think that might be a movie thing, that might be a book thing. I forget which. I think they're slit-like. They're like snake.
Yeah, they're slit-like, but so I know sometimes you can tell a lot by somebody's eyes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you guys are overthinking it a little too much. Eyes show the most emotion in someone's face.
Yeah.
I think. I thought I remember reading something about that. They got to. They show a million different things. If you just look at a person's eyes, you could probably see how they're feeling. Eyes are very defining.
I agree with that. And I was going to mention...
Eric, you have beautiful eyes.
He does. God, they're beautiful.
Like, what does anyone say? Like, even like your typical family, your typical family member will go, "Oh, he has his mother's eyes," like to a newborn, or nobody says like, "Oh, he has his mother's." Never mind.
He has his mother's ankles.
But no,
they always bring up Lily's eyes like it's some kind of magical significance, because they do bring it up a lot. But I wanted to, in addition to what Andrew said, actually I agree with that. I think maybe, do you guys think, since they compare him to his dad physically, do you think that the relationship where they say that you have your mother's eyes and the eyes tell most about the person, say that Harry's not cocky like his father was? Do you think that's like what JKR is trying to draw at, that even though he looks like his dad, he's more kind than possibly we know James to have been?
I think it's just a distinct differentiation between him and his father. I personally think that's all it is.
You truly are not your father's son, Harry. Because
no, not that way. There's got to be differences. If those two are just like each other, then there's going to be a million more assumptions.
You're right.
You can't really have that. It's a boring character. I mean, you read up on James, and you know about Harry.
Yeah.
They're going to be exactly alike.
Cool. In his coat, there was a copper kettle, sausages, a poker, teapot, chipped mugs, and some amber liquid that he took a swig from, which is probably alcoholic, but we can't say that. And so, in addition to that, he also has the owl and the letter and the quill in his pockets, which we find out later. That's a lot of stuff in his coat. Where do you think he got one?
And not only that, I'm looking at one page right now, chapter 5, page 62. I'm a chapter ahead, but but
if it's significant, that's okay.
J.K. Rowling goes on to say bunches of keys, slug pellets, balls of string, peppermint humbugs, tea bags, and then finally Harry pulled out a handful of strange-looking coins.
Huh. Wait, are you sure the coins wasn't the newt thing?
It's the nuts.
I actually think they're pronounced newts. Like,
really?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, they're canutes. If you look on the Scholastic pronunciation,
Canutes or newts?
Canutes.
Oh, canutes.
Really?
Yeah, that's really cool because like I don't know when that would have been.
Weird.
It's one of those extra pop fluff things. So I'll post it on a website, but you won't hear it in the movie.
Well, anyway. What was your question?
Where'd Hagrid get his coat? Because that holds a lot of stuff. And why didn't he just have one giant pocket that's like the size of a room and he jumps into it? And I don't know.
I mean, I don't know where he got his coat. It's sort of silly.
Okay. Then in that case, I think it's important. I think it's important to know that when he does get the sausages and the poker and the tea and all that stuff out of his pocket, he cooks sausages and Harry likes them. Now this is like a.
Oh my gosh! He likes food. He likes food.
No, he likes Hagrid's food. It's a downward spiral from here because that's like the only food of Hagrid's that Harry likes, isn't it? Because like the rock cakes and all that other stuff. From here on in, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they turn down everything Hagrid offers them.
Well, it could have been one of those things where in the beginning of writing the book, Joe was like, "Hey, I'm gonna." Well, she probably just didn't think it through all the way.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, but Harry was starving too, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think like in the beginning of the book, she didn't really think about should Harry not like anything that Hagrid eats? Sausage isn't like.
Yeah, I mean,
can you make a sausage bad?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean that's definitely Hagrid food.
And Hagrid isn't the food that they don't like of Hagrid's is food that Hagrid is sort of like homebrewed, He made it himself.
Right.
It isn't like he went out and slaughtered the pig and made the sausage out of the intestines and stuff. But
I need Laura or Micah for this, but maybe you guys can help. When Hagrid,
why are we too stupid to answer?
No, it's not like that at all.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, when Hagrid backs Vernon Dursley into the wall, he mutters something that sounds like Mimblewimble. Well, Dumbledore is chief warlock of the Wizengamot or whatever, and he has like this mugwump, supreme mugwump thing, and there's all these other weird terms that we don't know what they're like status symbols, but I swear I could have heard Mimblewimble actually mentioned somewhere as something else, like it might be an actual...
Somewhere else?
Like a word, like in another future book or something, like Nitwit, Blubber, Oddman, I don't know, Mimblewimble's... I just feel like I've heard it somewhere else. In fact, what kind of a reply is that anyway? Hagrid goes up and, Mimblewimble, What?
No, he was cowering. He's like, Mimblewimble. It sounded like Mimblewimble. It's not like you looked at Hagrid and he says, Mimblewimble. It was like he was mumbling. It wasn't.
Yeah.
He was mumbling.
All right.
Mimblewimble.
This is our first correlation backwards. Our first backwards compatible correlation. Last week we were talking about McGonagall and Dumbledore on Privet Drive. Now, Hagrid tells Harry that not only he's famous, but that the Potters were famous. He says, your parents were famous, the famous Lily and James Potter. And Harry's like, really? And he's like, yeah, you didn't know? And then he goes into the car crash. But anyway, he says the Potters were famous. But now, McGonagall and Dumbledore, you got to remember, in Chapter 1, they're walking along, and McGonagall's trying to get a rumor out of Dumbledore, like what happened to the Potters, except she says what they're saying is that Lily and James Potter that they're dead. And so she talks to Dumbledore in a kind of third-person sense about the Potters, but it seems like if they were in the Order and McGonagall was in the Order previously and Dumbledore were in the Order, she would not have used their last name. Like, she would have just said, would have been that Lily and James are dead.
Lily and James.
I mean, right after he nods, she says, Lily and James, I can't believe it's serious. So she does, I can't believe it's Dumbledore. So she does use their first names, but it seems like, I don't know, it seems like a sense of intimacy is lost. Anyway, the Potters were famous, which was an interesting.
They were?
They really were, and they were famous before Harry was famous, and so that's.
Where'd you read that at?
No, Harry hasn't come across any books about either him. Well, first of all, himself. Hermione said there's books everywhere about him, but he hasn't come across books about.
Hold on a second.
When did
How do
Hermione
you know
say
that? How do you know that Harry's family was famous?
Because Hagrid says it. There's all these books, apparently, about Harry. So wouldn't it make sense that there are about his parents if his parents were famous?
Are you sure Hermione says that? And when?
It's in one of the future chapters I can't talk about because we can't read it yet.
I never remember that. Interesting.
I think it's on the train in chapter 6 or 7 of this book. I think she says there are books written about you.
Yeah.
Because she helped him out, something about Voldemort in the future or something. Oh, yeah, I've read about you. Remember she says...
Oh, well, that could be in a newspaper or something. That doesn't mean...
Well, anyway. Okay, it's page 50 in the U.S. version. It says, "But you must know about your mom and dad," he said. "I mean, they're famous. You're famous." Which was all he said. It's right after Mimblewimble. He says, "They're famous." Something out of nothing, maybe. But he did say they were famous, so it's interesting. Do you think they're famous because he's famous, or do you think they were famous beforehand? Because if they are, then Harry could easily read up about his parents. You know, it seems like there's all these resources available to Harry that he's not taking.
That's a good point. No, I think they're famous because they're the parents of the boy who lived. And everyone knows that it was Lily that protected Harry, so that's why she's well known.
Actually, wait. No, because then Harry asks right after that, "What? My mom and dad weren't famous, were they?" And then Hagrid says, you don't know. So, actually, it seems like it implies that they were famous before they had Harry, or before they died.
No, he's saying we're famous because they're dead.
My mom and dad weren't famous. No.
Yeah, and that they're...
No, because he should say aren't then. If he said, "My mom and dad aren't famous, are they?" He says, weren't famous, were they? They were at their time, is what it's asking.
No, I still think it was at their time when they died.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, let's keep moving on. We got some other stuff we can talk about.
I think Hagrid knows what Dumbledore wrote in the letter, or at least a lot of it, because, or at least he has an idea, because he confronts the Dursleys about... He says, "You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him? I was there. I saw Dumbledore leave it." And I think that really implies, you never told him what was in the letter? Because I think Hagrid knows what's in the letter. Do you guys think so? And maybe Harry could consult him in the future about what exactly was in it?
Never telling him, no, you're thinking too hard.
No, I think we can imply that the letter at least told them that he was a wizard or something, and that he would be accepted or into Hogwarts or whatever.
The letter probably said what happened to the parents, to Lily and James. That he's a wizard, and why he was brought to them.
Then what did, in book 5, what did "remember my last" mean? Do you think that was in the letter? Did that happen after the letter?
No, I think that probably had to do with something afterwards.
I think so, too.
Because there were so many run-ins with the magical world during books 1 through 5, so... Between the Dursleys.
I think
just with, like the accidents and all that.
Yeah, I think "remember my last" happened after the letter. But that was that question. The two final theories of Chapter 4. Hagrid's telling Harry about his parents, and he says, "Now, your mom and dad were as good as witch or wizard as I ever knew. Head boy and girl at Hogwarts in their day. Suppose the mystery is why you-know-who never tried to get him on his side before." He probably knew they were too close to Dumbledore to want anything to do with the dark side. Maybe he thought he could persuade him. Maybe he just wanted him out of the way. You see, Hagrid says here that he thinks Voldemort tried to persuade the Potters into turning or something, because he says the mystery is why you-know-who never tried to get him on his side before. So do you think, Hagrid apparently thinks that Voldemort tried to turn the Potters to his side to join him. And why do you think he thinks that? That's pretty big, don't you think?
That is true.
I'm just trying to think how that kind of word would have spread. Because there wasn't anyone else around that whole scene, right?
Yeah, why would he think that?
Maybe it's just misinterpretation.
It could be just silly Hagrid bumble.
or some just random rumor.
There's an answer. Last week we asked what destroyed the Potter's house. We asked what destroyed it. Hagrid thinks it's the Death Curse itself. Even though the Death Curse normally doesn't touch anything, Hagrid says that the death curse, when he says that Voldemort couldn't even kill a little baby, he said it took care of your mom and your dad and your house even, but it couldn't take care of you.
Yeah.
You hear that? He says, like, it took care of your mom and your dad and your house. So I think, as far as Hagrid knows, it was the death curse that did destroy the house.
Yeah, well, that does solve that question. So that pretty much wraps up Chapter 4. How about we move on to Chapter 5 now?
Okay, we're going to speed through Chapter 5. Are you guys ready?
Let's go. 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, right.
Shoot your Mountain Dew or caffeine or whatever you have. Okay, they go to bed, and they wake up the next day, and Harry has Hagrid's coat over him, and he said, and he thinks it's a dream, and he hears the owl tapping at the window, and he thinks it's Petunia tapping on his cupboard. Anyway, I just realized how quickly Harry comes to the conclusion that it's all a dream. It's like he's really willing to believe that it's all a dream. So do you guys think that the Harry Potter series is all a dream?
No.
That's such a... really, everyone assumes that with every single book or
I agree.
television show or movie. Well, not with movies, because by the end of a movie you know everything. But, like, for example, the television show Lost that we're starting a podcast with me, Melissa, and John, hopefully someday soon. Everyone's like, oh, well, maybe it's a dream. Dude, why? Why? What kind of ending would that be? Has there ever been a book or a movie or television show where it ends up in a dream? I really don't think so. I'm sure we're going to get emails with someone saying, yeah, movie back in 1970.
Yeah, Galadriel Waters theorizes about this in both of her books, and all of the books she's written to this point, about whether at the end of the series, there's all types of endings it could be. It could be like Alice in Wonderland. How does Alice in Wonderland end? Is that it's all a dream?
All I know is that Hagrid had dormice in his pocket, which is kind of like Alice in Wonderland.
Okay, so the point where we're getting to is that I
think
Harry could have assumed. Of course, Harry could have assumed it was his dream because he's actually living in a moment like this. But sometimes you've got to get yourself together. You know,
I guarantee you that
and you can't get out of it.
Get yourself together. You got stuck in a moment. And
right, but Eric.
But oh Lord, look at him now. He got himself stuck in a moment.
Yeah, no, seriously. Who does that song?
No. You too?
You too? Are you serious?
I didn't just ask that question. Okay, no, so...
no, but it's so typical.
In the case... I agree, Andrew.
It could be typical of anyone.
No, but seriously, though, I think... Yeah, that's the point. That's what I was going to say. Many people would be so mad if J.K. Rowling uses a lame ending. Yeah. Like, and then it was all a dream.
He woke up and that's something he reached for his scar.
Yeah.
Harry woke up in his 4-story mansion with his parents by his bedside. Sirius was there. A long bearded man was
You were there. It was all a dream, Harry. Okay, but my main thing against the dream theory, first of all, in the case of Lost, what sick mind comes up with all that drama, for a dream? And also...
the writers.
The writers. Yeah, Chris Carter, X-Files. But there are too many nights and days, I think. There is too much information. There's too much information, I think, in the Harry Potter series for it to believably be a dream. When I have really weird dreams, and I do have really weird dreams, I don't learn anything new, really. It just kind of like, it adds, but I don't really, here Harry is for 7 years. He sleeps, he wakes up, he eats, he plays Quidditch, he almost dies however many times, all that stuff, and then he goes to bed at night. And, how can going to sleep and waking up... have you ever had a dream where you were having a dream? Have you? Because I haven't.
No, but I had this dream once where it was like I closed my eyes and I woke up and it was morning. It was so awesome.
Yeah, I thought I did that too. I was like 13, I think, and I was really tired and I blinked and then it was morning again. Like I blinked, like I didn't even feel like I got.
Yeah. And then there's
what do you mean? I'm confused. What are you talking about? You blink and it's morning.
Like
I don't get that.
You fall asleep and then it feels like a second later you wake up and it's morning. That happened to me once. Too. But anyway.
Pointlessness. Hagrid, they take the boat that the Dursleys use to get onto the rock, off the rock. Hagrid says we should take the boat because we shouldn't use magic. First of all, once they get in the boat, Hagrid says, do you mind if I do magic to make us go faster? And Harry's all like, no. And he's like, you shouldn't mention it at Hogwarts. So the whole reason they got in the boat was because they couldn't do magic. And then as soon as they get in the boat, Hagrid's like, screw this Muggle thing. It's too slow. We need to magic it up. He's totally a hypocrite. And now the Dursleys don't have a ride back. How do you think the Dursleys got back? Did they swim?
Oh, it's another one of those billing continuity problems where they show up everywhere. It's just another error. How did they get back? Well, wait a second. Wasn't there a man with a boat who drove them over originally?
No.
Yeah.
They took the man's boat and drove themselves over.
Okay, so the man. Well, if you want to argue this, you could say that the man came back over looking for him, see what they were doing, and
because he didn't see
picked them up and brought them
yeah,
back.
Maybe
There's the answer right there.
they didn't pay for their unless they paid ahead of time. Okay, so
maybe they floated on Dudley back over. He's the big whale.
Vernon.
The big whale.
Okay, according to Hagrid, Hagrid starts reading the paper that the owl brought, which we won't talk about because we talked about Newts, and that's the only thing I wanted to say about that. Hagrid is reading the paper, and Harry asks him about a Minister of Magic, because Hagrid mentioned the Minister of Magic. You guys remember this?
Yes.
I think it said that Cornelius Fudge only appeared to the Muggle Minister in times of desperate crisis, like once every year or so, or months. He didn't keep him updated at all. So according to Hagrid, the Minister of Magic's main job is to keep the Muggles from noticing, but yet he never talks to the Muggle Minister. So it seems, I don't know, like what does Cornelius Fudge do all day besides send letters to Dumbledore asking him what to do all day?
Well, it's the same type of thing you'd think about when you say, well, what does a principal at school do all day? They just sit there in the office and do nothing, That's really not what they do. They actually have a job that's a lot more complicated than you would think. Because when you're on the outside looking in like that, at first glance it appears that they're not really doing that much, but in reality they're doing a lot.
I would agree with that.
Paperwork, there's hearings, there's meetings.
There's bribes to accept from Lucius Malfoy.
And think about all the magical departments. He has to oversee all.
Does he
too.
though? Does he? I mean, I think in the case of Fudge, he's very incompetent, and I don't even know if he would. Like, it's really interesting. Like, I mean, he has to attend so many meetings.
I think people overplay the Fudge incompetency thing.
I would agree with that, only because if he was too incompetent, they would have kicked him out.
Yeah, he would have been the equivalent of a U.S. president being impeached. But the point that I think we're all trying to make here is that, well, what I was trying to say basically was that Cornelius Fudge, even though it sometimes appears, for example, that the only reason people say he's incompetent, I've kind of gotten I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
it's because he was compared to Dumbledore a lot.
That and he just denied that Voldemort was back, and that's what people say made him incompetent. And I think the reason that he may have denied it to begin with is because he knew he wasn't capable of coping with that, and he didn't want to basically have it be his administration that has to deal with Voldemort coming back and get blamed for everyone being killed and stuff like that.
I can really see that from a political standpoint.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ben. Woohoo.
Yeah. All right.
Do you think, on a side note, relating back to the impeachment thing, do you think that Cornelius would have a relationship with the woman who was the voice on the phone from the telephone booth? The ministry?
Aren't you funny?
I would not be surprised.
Take this one on for size. This note kicks butt, I might say. Not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. Now, you can twist. That's a lot of double negatives there, but when Hagrid tells this to Harry, it is Hagrid, not Ron, as in the movie. Hagrid says that listen to this, there's not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. Now, you could take this to mean that there's no witches or wizards who weren't in Slytherin that didn't go bad.
Right.
Can you mean that? But Pettigrew.
So all Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaws are good.
If you can read this like this, like not a single witch or wizard who went bad, like there was not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. So does that mean we do know Pettigrew was at Gryffindor, right? Yeah. So does that mean that Pettigrew didn't go bad? Does that mean that all these other characters who are, other houses than Slytherin didn't go bad? I mean, if this holds true, if Hagrid isn't just...
Well, it depends on what your interpretation of going bad is, because...
Well, Pettigrew killed the Potters.
I think Pettigrew... Well, Pettigrew's misunderstood. He's after power. He goes after the person. He's not actually... He doesn't want to be in a position of power himself. He wants to be where he's able to, follow somebody who has power, because he's not charismatic. He's not good enough to be able to build it up himself. But if he finds somebody who he can suck up to, like Andrew does to me, then, he just has that situation.
Okay, so he wants power, so does going to Voldemort consider himself going bad? I mean, I think so. He's assisting the most deadliest...
Right, so then what Hagrid said is...
The most deadly.
What Hagrid said is wrong.
Mostest deadliest.
So what Hagrid said is just a gross generalization, and it really doesn't apply to anything.
Yeah. But, you have to keep in mind that Hagrid's not the brightest bulb in the box. And
he's not the brightest giant on the grounds. And so, anyway.
Actually, he is.
Yeah, he is.
And also the stupidest.
Well, he's a half giant. Not when Grop's there. Harry goes into Ollivander's. This is just real quick. He goes into Ollivander's, and the back of his neck prickled. And he says, as if there were... JKR writes, Harry sensed that there was...
Well, it's just a spooky place,
it
man.
is, but Harry sensed... This is like the quote, almost. Harry sensed that there was some sort of secret magic. Now, my question is, who is Harry to judge magic? Harry hasn't even experienced any kind of direct magic, so why would he even be equipped to feel like there's some kind of secret magic within this place? I think it's JKR telling us that there's a secret magic in Ollivander's shop, something we don't know about, which could have further implications regarding the whereabouts of Ollivander.
Of course there is. You're surrounded by these wands that can do thousands, millions of different things.
But that's magic. That's not secret magic. It might be secret magic because Harry doesn't know about it, but the way it's written seems like it's like ancient beyond... When I think of the term secret magic used in this context, I think of Dumbledore's muttering that weird language at the end of Book 6 when he's like finds out that he has to cut his wrists to like spray blood to get the Horcrux. I mean, that's what I think of when I think of secret magic, and like the door in the middle of nowhere, the invisible stuff.
I think it's called secret because Harry is not aware of what any of these hold, so It is a secret to him.
Well,
so
not only
any
that,
magic,
I mean,
any magic is secret magic.
Well, because Ollivander's has been within. It's sort of it's a family business, and it's been there for centuries.
Well, is it a family business, or is it just Mr. Ollivander? Could he have been the one who has been around since 382 BC?
He's a pretty old guy. Well, not for
that too.
That
he disappeared
is 666 in Sorcerer's Stone. So
right, but he had the.
Well, yeah, he
had
the
Sorcerer's Stone.
Right.
Right, but the point is, about Ollivander, I don't know. I think the secret magic may have something to do with, just the aura you get when you walk in. You know what I mean? Have you guys ever been someplace where it feels like, there's something, like when you go to New York City, for example. Andrew and I talk about this all the time. You just get this energy off the city, and it's a positive energy, But in terms of there may be some places, too, where people, you go there, it just makes you depressed just because of the way it is.
Like a funeral parlor, you wouldn't find yourself being immensely, joyous in a funeral parlor unless it's somebody you really hate.
That's mean, yeah.
It's a horrible thing to say. But anyway, no, I think JKR classifies a lot of rooms, based on what Ben said. I think she does classify a lot of rooms as having like a somber library sort of, you can't talk and this kind of thing. Like that's how she, I guess, says Trelawney's room is.
And you're unsure of it, so that's sort of a way to call it a secret.
But my guess was that since she mentioned secret magic and Harry was rather ill-equipped to disguise like any kind of magic at all, let alone secret magic, I think she was trying to tell us that it's possible that she was trying to tell us that there's some kind of ancient stuff on all. But I don't know how that would come into play considering Ollivander went missing. Like, I don't know, like, as soon as Voldemort enters Ollivander's shop to buy another wand, Ollivander just disappears, like, he folds up, or it's like a Fidelius charm, what's the deal? Secret magic can imply a lot of things. I just wanted your thoughts.
Well, the building could be enchanted for certain things, and that may be the secret magic that he's thinking of.
And it's Harry, at this point, has no clue what any of this is, so...
Right, and like you said, and like you guys were talking about how she has a lot more of narrating in the book at the beginning because we have to learn everything first, and we grow as Harry does, and so it could go back to that where she still hasn't really explained much yet, And secret magic is just really the magic that the
So
wand.
you're saying that was like an initial introduction to the kind of environments we'd be seeing in the future.
Right. It could be that, or it could be something deeper.
Same page as the Secret Magic reference, which is 63 in the UK edition, UK paperback. Woohoo! I was hoping to have Jamie on this week so he could read the UK with me, and we'd both be on the same page for once. But anyway, another mention to Harry's mother's eyes. It's just another mention on page 6. Ollivander says, "You look like your father, but you have your mother's eyes," or whatever. But, guys, this is possibly the biggest theory. This is the Shan't/won't, only it's more significant. This is another tie-in to last week's show, chapters 1 and 2, and it has something from chapter 5. Ollivander greets Harry. He recognized him right away, of course, and he says, Harry Potter, actually I can read the direct quote because I wrote down the page number. Yay for me! 64 in the UK edition as I turn to it right now. Okay. He says, Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes. And that's where... Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long white finger. I'm sorry to say I sold the one that did it. He says, and that's where... And he points to his scar. That's awkward. And you know why that's awkward is because in Chapter 1, McGonagall, it's right before Dumbledore says that he'll have that scar.
Before you go into going crazy here. And that's where the scar is. That's where Voldemort cast the spell from the wand that Mr. Ollivander sold
Exactly. That's what I'm going. No, and that's where I'm thinking it means. And that's where, but is that where the death curse hit him? Is that what he's saying? He's saying and that's where the death curse hit you, creating that scar, or is he saying, and that's where Voldemort made his Horcrux, or and that's where what the because a death curse, first of all, shouldn't leave any mark. And especially not a mark in a specific place. What is that trying to say? And that's where his wand was aimed when he fired the death curse at you? What does Ollivander know about Harry that Harry doesn't? About this whole...
It's probably, and that's where the spell
I said,
hit you.
But it seems like such a specific place. And look at this. I'm tying up loose ends. In Chapter 1, he has, after Harry arrives, listen to this. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall bent forward over a bundle of blankets. Inside, just visible, was a baby boy fast asleep. Under a tuft of jet black hair over his forehead, they could see a curiously shaped cut like a bolt of lightning. Is that where? Whispered Professor McGonagall. Is that where what? McGonagall says, is that where? And Dumbledore replies immediately, yes. He'll have that scar for...
Is that where the spell
is that
but
where...
the spell doesn't... No.
Is that where the spell hit him?
Nobody's seen... shh. Nobody's seen it before. So your first reaction...
Nobody's seen it for 11 years.
And I don't think that's it at all. Because they don't know... The death curse isn't supposed to leave a mark. First of all. So is that where the spell hit him? Is that what they're asking? Is that what she's asking and Ollivander's asking? Because Ollivander proclaims it. He's like, and that's where something did this to you. But McGonagall asks, is that where? And Dumbledore says, yeah, it's the exact same words. It's like bringing attention to the scar. But I really don't feel that it's just simple like, oh, and that's where the death curse hit you because it's not supposed to leave a mark. Is that where Lily's love set in? Is that where Voldemort imprinted himself into you? They're asking all these questions, but Dumbledore replied, yes. It makes me think that Dumbledore and Ollivander know a lot more about Harry's scar than they're ever letting on.
Well, that could very well be, but if they both know it, then wouldn't a lot of other people know? And in that case, wouldn't someone have told Harry by now? It's open for a lot of debate.
Okay, but is that where? That's like the whole chapter of this whole... It's the epiphany of everything, because they always reference Harry's scar, and then it cuts off.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Hopefully in Book 7 we'll find out.
And that's where... ...
You guys know what? What really excites me though, after we do this, and after we're done doing all of our speculating, and we come back and we look back to all that we've said, I'm anxious to see how right we were about things.
I really am, and after we have all these episodes out, we can easily. Well, they won't all be on the feed, which sucks. But there, on MuggleCast.com, you'll be able to go back and any time in the future, 10 years from now, you'll be able to go back and actually pick a chapter. Like, if you wanted to just read one chapter in the middle of the series, you could hear our discussion on it. It'd be like a companion.
So, that wraps up the chapter-by-chapter discussion for episode 32 of MuggleCast. Hope you guys enjoy reading along with us, because we're having a good time discussing this. It may get a little bit heated from time to time, but we enjoy it. Next thing that we need to move on to is the Create Your Own MuggleCast segment entry. Honorable mention goes to Several Minutes with Snape.
This was a really, once again, Laura, Mike, and I judged these, and this one was another pretty humorous one. It's very clever. So this is also the last of the MuggleCast segments that we're going to air actually on the MuggleCast show, and then the rest that were submitted will go into the feed. So here it is now, Several Minutes with Snape by Luke from Melbourne, Australia.
Hello and welcome to yet another exhilarating episode of Several Minutes with Severus here on the Wizarding Wireless Network, where I teach you how to bewitch the mind and ensnare the senses, etc., etc. This show, as always, is brought to you by our sponsors, Total Wassup Daddy and their new Diagon Alley store, where the latest in filth bling is at fully sick prices. I'm your host, Severus Snape. First up, the news. Ministry of Magic officials are still searching for the murderer of Albus Dumbledore. Any listeners who might know anything about the whereabouts of the man with greasy black hair, a hooked nose, a tendency to speak in a soft, slow, depressing voice and say nasty things, should give him a few galleons and maybe some new boots, as mine are worn out at the heel. Those using the flu powder network to go to work today should take care around the ministry. An unfortunate collision between an unspeakable and a chimney sweep has caused severe fireplace jams all the way back to Diagon Alley. Residents of the house at Iwasam Alley, who crossbred a bulldog with a shih tzu, are advised that's not funny. And finally, a foolish wizard who ended up the victim of a series of joke items purchased from Weasley's Wizard Weasels would like his legs back. Well, every week here on the show, we allow you to send in your wacky jokes on this Snape's Sniggering section. Today's joke comes from the Ministry of Magic and has been officially passed by a panel of experts. Knock, knock. May I inquire who is there? Your husband? Well, I'm afraid I can't let you in without a code word because there are dark wizards about. Hilarious, is it not? Here's the part of the show where you can ring up and pester me with your woefully superficial problems, and I pretend to care and offer advice not endorsed by any professionals whatsoever. Go ahead, caller 1. I believe you are Harry of Surrey.
Hello there.
Hello to you, Harry.
I have this problem, you see.
That does not surprise me in the slightest.
Well, you see, I'm actually looking for someone.
And who is that?
Well, I was just wondering, can I just pop round to the station and show you a picture?
And why is it necessary to come to the station?
Well, so I can kill you. I mean, kill some time.
Thank you, caller 1. Now that idiot has ceased wasting valuable time here on the show, it's time to move on to our voicemails. This one comes from Ronald.
Severus, I was just wondering, how can I stop my best friend from dating my sister? Thank you very much. Love your show. Listen to it every week.
Well, Ronald, I suggest poison. As it happens to me, in my youth, I was tormented by a pig-headed and arrogant bully at school. However, my motto has always been forgive and forget. So later in life, I naturally got him murdered, forgave myself, and forgot all about it. Now we've come to everyone's favourite section spy on Severus. I'm right here. And now to the forecast. Up in the areas of Manchester, it will be freezing cold, as low as negative 12 degrees Celsius. Things will get very hot in here, though, when I find the little pixie who stole the rest of my weather report. Today's book review is on the A to K section of the Yellow Pages by Anonymous. I found the start thrilling, but the plot became repetitious, and the sequel, L to Z, was much of the same thing. We now come to our final section of the show, where I tell you what will happen in the next show. I will, however, maintain suspense and keep a tight lip on this matter. Well, thank you for joining us here at Several Minutes with Severus, brought to you by the Death Eaters, where they guarantee dismal service or your children back. Stay tuned for our next show here on the Wizarding Wireless Network. 5 frightfully fur-fluffing, fun-filled factions from Gregory Goyle, who would like to thank our alliteration expert for coming in one letter of the alphabet too early. Until next week, I'm Severus Snape. But after that, I'm changing my name to Elvis.
Okay, so once again, that was Several Minutes with Snape by Luke from Melbourne, Australia. Congrats to him. And don't forget, we will be running everyone else's segments that were entered into the comments, or into the contest, 2 months ago? They will be airing in their own show, probably 2 shows, coming up in the next few weeks.
Cool.
Once I'm not lazy. Okay, everyone, we're going to cut the show a little short this week because we want to have more people on for the voicemails as well as everything else. Next week, a full crew will be back with the regular content and everything else you've come to love right here on MuggleCast.
Okay, well, everybody, that wraps up episode 32 of MuggleCast. Next week on the show, we have many things coming back to you. Such as
the editorial
discussion.
Hopefully. We're having a hard time getting editorialists to come on and talk with us. So if you have a favorite one in mind, make sure to email them and say, hey, you should go on MuggleCast. Email Micah.
I really want to get Maylene on.
Email her.
The North Tower. That'd be good. That'd be good. And also, we have our What If segment, which we skipped over this week also because of the lack of numbers. We can also do the Listener Rebuttals, the voicemails, and everything. Kevin Steck will be back next week with more voicemails than you can imagine. Oh, geez, it's going to be incredible.
And also, chapter by chapter, we're thinking of doing chapters 6 and 7 to let you know. Once we get into the future books, we'll be able to jump ahead a little bit more. But right now, the whole introduction to Harry's world, it's taking it a little bit slow, so we're still doing 2 chapters at a time. We hope it'll go faster, but 6 and 7 for next week.
Yeah, which is another thing. We seriously got a record number of emails over past week. We got 400, and that's because last week I was like, send this to MuggleCast staff, send that to MuggleCast staff, send that to MuggleCast. So, yeah. What?
Wait, answer the most important rebuttal. Tootsie Rolls. They're invented, or they're made by the Tootsie Roll Company. Tootsie. Yes. I think it's literally called Tootsie Roll Industries Incorporated, Chicago, Illinois. And I've been to Chicago, so next time I'm in Chicago, I'll have to go to. There's a street address.
Take a picture.
But yeah.
Tootsie. Yeah.
So thanks. Thanks everyone for your emails, and thanks for
fun.
all your support. You know, I love going on MySpace and just the fan forums and the chat room, and just seeing everyone and how appreciative they are of the show. And you know, we've said it before, we just love the reactions.
Yeah, we love you guys. Okay, everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the show. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please send them to MuggleCast at staff.mugglenet.com. Continue to visit MuggleNet, continue to visit the site. Hope you guys had fun. I'm Ben Shane.
I'm Andrew Sims.
I'm Jamie Lawrence.
I'm Kevin Steck.
I'm Eric Skull.
I'm Laura Thompson.
And I'm Michael Tannenbaum.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
just like the fan forums and the chat room, and just seeing everyone and how appreciative they are of the show. And we've said it before.
So bad. I have like 10,000.
We just love the reactions.
It's funny because I have 10,000.
Okay, don't show
off. I have 10,000 friends.
I better have more friends than you on MySpace.
I have 10,000 friend requests, but I have no posts.
You're such a liar.
No, but I have no posts. That's not one single. So, like, I have an update. I created the account. In fact, I think it's dead now. I think they actually deactivated it. Disconnected the MySpace account because I didn't use it. But I had so many friend requests. It was so funny because I didn't have time to update. No, I'm not a show-off. I'm saying that it's so sad.
I had thousands of friend requests, but they deactivated it. So
Andrew, all I'm saying is no.
What?
Dude, Andrew, I can barely I can barely
no, guys.
Chat. His ego's so big.
All I'm saying is my reputation.
I think it's time. I think it's time to say goodnight.
Susan, it's so great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon. Cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code PHIL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill-up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code PHIL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PHIL.